Heart of the Matter wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors, Coast News Group, Godania Organic Eatery, Repegs, and John Milkowski Tax Law. Together, let's get to the heart of the matter. All right, welcome to the Heart of the Matter podcast. I'm Junon.
I'm Dr. Lisa Lewis. Today, we have somebody that I go to your business at least once a week. We have Nastasha McKeon of Choice Juicery. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
I think we've been talking about this episode for a long time.
Probably,
so,
yeah.
2026, it's happening.
I love it.
Yeah, I was on your podcast. That was a lot of fun as well. And thank you for being on our podcast. We had coffee. We played pickleball together. I hear stories about you all the time. I love it. I want the community that doesn't know you already to get to know your background.
Well, I'm excited to share more.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm going to guess that most of our viewers, if they live in San Diego, they're like, yeah, I love Choice Juicery. I had no idea you had this whole background, the books, the product, the merchandise. I feel like your company has become really well-rounded.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been, we're going on 12 years now. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I've gotten bored over the years. And so I continue to create more and more things, right? So that I have more offerings.
Good. Keep being bored because then you get
exactly
more
right.
creative.
Yes,
All right.
I know.
Well, so then where did you grow up?
I grew up in San Diego. Yeah, I was a little more inland, Escondido. But yeah, I grew up here. I've been here my whole life.
Always health conscious and...
Not exactly. No, I mean... Do you want to hear the whole story?
I want to hear it. I want it.
Yes.
I've heard it. I want everyone else to
Okay,
hear it.
yeah. Well, let's see. I grew up, probably one of the things we have in common is we have both had tough backgrounds. I know we talked about that a bit on my podcast. Grew up in kind of a really rough way and definitely wasn't exposed to health and wellness. Fast food was a staple around the first of the month when my mom would get her check. We'd hit the fast food places until that ran out. And then the rest was like government, cheese and milk. And that was basically the extent of what was in our fridge. And so, no, I didn't have any real exposure to health and wellness growing up. But I had a loved one, my Grandma Lola. And when I was 11, she was diagnosed with autoimmune disease, scleroderma. And she didn't actually die from her disease, but she died from complications of the medication they gave her to treat her disease. And so one of the side effects of the medication she was on was heart failure. And one night she thought she was having a heart attack. She calls 911. They, take her in. Her vitals are fine. They leave her alone in triage because, again, according to their standards at that time, she was fine. But when they came back 45 minutes later to check on her, she was in cardiac arrest and she died of heart failure. So hearing that story at 11 years old about somebody who was very important in my life at that time, she was kind of the only person who had life together, kind of a light in a dark place for me, if you will. And so hearing that story about how she was just failed by, the doctors at the time, what I now know as Western medicine, I was very angry at the doctors. And I remember cleaning out her room and I remember finding a book. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the book, but the subtitle is like always stuck with me. It was How to Heal Yourself Naturally, What the Doctors Don't Want You to Know. And mind you, I'm pissed off at the doctors. I'm like, what don't they want me to know? Like it was this big conspiracy or something. And what I found was this idea that food is supposed to be medicine. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, let food be thy medicine. And I'd never been exposed to anything like that in my life. And so it planted a seed. And just like any seed, if you throw it right here on the concrete, it's not going to grow. So it took a lot of years for that to really develop into my love for health and wellness. But that's where it all started when I look back on my life. Like that was the moment that my passion was born. I remember that year going to some New Year's Eve party and everyone's giving up, smoking and all these bad things. And, they're going around in the circle talking about what they're going to give up for the year. And it came around to me and I was like, I'm going to give up soda. It's like, I knew soda was bad for me. It's the one thing I knew was bad for me that I was doing at the time. So I gave up soda at 11 years old, never drank it again.
Wow.
So like, it was always there. It's just over the years, I'd get information, I'd learn something new, and then I would adopt it into my nutritional philosophy. And what I think changed in me that day when my grandma died and when I found that book was, you hear this saying, I'll never remember who actually said this initially, but it's like oftentimes people stumble upon truth. They pick themselves up, they dust themselves off, and they carry on as though nothing ever happened. And for me, I'm like the complete opposite of that. After losing my grandma, in the way that I did, that created something inside of me that desired to change. And so when I would learn something, I would automatically implement it into my life. So, fast forward to my early 20s, I had developed a pretty robust nutritional philosophy just from like being self-taught at that point. So.
Wow. So then, especially at that age, I mean, you don't really kind of think like that. And like, think about how we talked about earlier, how the right people show up at the right time. Things just kind of happen. What if you never discovered that book, but you were meant to discover that?
Totally.
Your friends, did you kind of help influence them, or were they kind of like, you're kind of strange for thinking this?
I was always the strange one, the odd,
that was me too.
always the odd
Yeah.
one out, going against the grain. No one was ever doing what I was doing around me. Over the years, I think I inspired people for sure. And now, if you look at my family, my loved ones, my friends, and things, it's like I'm surrounded by that. But growing up, definitely not. I was always the odd man out. People always thought I was a weirdo for doing, living the way that I was living when I gave up like fast food and all these
Right.
things. And in that stage of my life, it was such a weird thing to do, especially in the environment that I was in. I had to kind of create a new environment, which happened organically as as you change, the world around you starts to change. You know what I mean? You attract new friendships and relationships and people, and you inspire people around you that are in your life, like your family. And so I think, I created that new norm, but definitely wasn't like that growing up, and in my early 20s, definitely not, everyone was like, what are you doing? And that one's a weirdo, like, what's this organic juice you're drinking? What's this, what is this thing that you're doing,
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
especially in high school, I mean, everyone drank soda, everyone had fast food. The hangout spot typically was like Jack in the Box
Yes.
or something like that. So, yeah, that's very. I've always been kind of the same. I've always kind of been the black sheep of the family, and I always kind of went to my own like beat. So it was kind of, I've always been healthy. It's for me, there was something about it because my parents and my father, I mean, again, they worked at a restaurant, so they ate quickly. It was quick.
Yes.
So it wasn't about health. For me, I always looked up. I looked up to Bruce Lee. So I looked at anything Bruce Lee did, I did. I was like, oh,
I love that.
yeah. So,
I think the tip for preteens, teenagers, be the weird one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be the weird one in
Be
your
different.
high school. Like,
Yeah.
do the thing differently than the rest of your friends, and then you'll be the innovator one day.
Totally. And I'll say, like, for me, it wasn't overnight, right? It came in stages for me. I wish I had that great awakening at that moment. But like I was saying earlier about the seed and needing the right environment, right?
Right.
It wasn't until I was on my own at 16, I'm like buying my own food, and then it's like I really have control over my choices at that stage. So it wasn't overnight, it was like the little things that I could control. I could control not drinking soda, right?
Right.
But I couldn't control what my mom said we were eating for dinner. Right. And so there were things that I could and I couldn't change in my environment. As a kid, I grew up on school lunches. I had no
Right.
choice, right?
Yeah.
Those meals were free. So that's what I was eating. And I had a lot of food insecurity growing up. I didn't have access to a lot of food, especially after I lost my grandma. She was a resource for me in my life. And so losing her, we went further into poverty. And so I didn't have a lot of control over those choices, but the things that I could control, I did, and then as I got older, yes, like I would say more for me, it was in my early 20s that I started to be like, okay, like, I gave up fast food probably, early 20s, and then the more I, again, became the weird one, but the more weird I got, the more comfortable I got making even weirder choices. And they're not weird, but at that time in the environment, it was weird,
New.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember the first like restaurant or grocery store you went to that you were like, wow, all this food is really good for you? Like, I'm going to start coming here more often.
Yeah, I would say probably Jimbo's was my
yeah.
first exposure growing up here locally. Next to that, it was Erewhon, which was a very expensive grocery store visit. I was going camping up in Ventura, and I was like going for the week, and I was like, I've heard great things about this Erewhon store, and we went camping, and we were, okay, let's stop there, and we'll do our grocery shopping for the week there. I've never spent so much money in my life at a grocery store,
Right.
but it was, it was a cool experience, and stores like that are just awesome, right? Because they provide that. And for me, in opening Choice, I wanted something similar to that, where you have this environment where you have everything. For me, it's like, it's really hard for people to make good choices when they walk in and they're hungry and they're hit in the face with a burger and fries, or whatever it is. Maybe they had good intentions walking in, but often those good intentions are out the window when they're starving, and like, okay, it's, in and out's right there, right? And so I feel like having a place and an environment where it's conducive to making healthy choices. You know, you walk in at my place and it's like everything on the menu is actually designed to be good for you.
Right.
And so you can't make a bad choice. Even if you want to, you're not going to, because everything is designed to be good for you. And I think that's just such a beautiful way to create a concept, create something that reflects the world that you want to live in.
Right. And what's great about it too is everything is good there, but it tastes great.
Yeah,
Tastes great.
I love it.
Yeah.
The PB&J, the peanut butter protein.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. All right, we've done a great job of branding the group and Heart of the Matter. We've grown to close to 600 people. Now, how do we market this? How do we get out there? Do we do SEO? How do we get the news out there?
Coast News Group.
That was always my goal. I want to show people that you don't have to compromise your taste buds to eat healthy.
Right.
You can have your cake and eat it too. It can just be healthy.
Right. And it's cool. I bet you people who visit San Diego and go into Choice Juicery are like, oh my gosh, I remember this place in San Diego.
Mhm.
Everything was good for me and it tasted good.
Totally.
So you're giving that memory to other people too.
Totally. And it's ironic because like I've gone places in the world. I was in Japan last year with my son. And when we were there, I went into this juicery and I took a picture of one of the smoothies and like everything on the menu was like so choice. I was like, wow. And so I took a picture jokingly, I sent it to my team. And I was like, tell me you've been to Choice without telling me you've been to Choice, because it was like, it looked just like Choice. And then I tagged them in this picture online. It was like, found an amazing spot. I'm always on the lookout when I'm traveling for something similar to my place, which is hard to find, something with that integrity and quality. Right. Anyways, the owner reaches out to me and he is like, oh my God, you're Choice Juicery. I was like, I used to go there every day when I lived in Carlsbad, and it was Tokyo Juice. And he was like, went home and created something based on, being inspired by my place in Carlsbad when he was there. So anyways, it's just so cool. I've been all over the world and I've had that experience. I've been in other states and places. And I'm like, oh my God, they're like, I love Choice. I'm like, I can tell. But I'm so stoked to see that, it's inspired people to go create another place that's where people have access to this kind of food and nutrition that tastes good all over the world.
That's amazing. Well, so, I mean, Choice has grown so much in the last 12 years. What did you do before?
I did a lot of things before, but I had a long career in the banking space. So I always say I got into banking as a baby before like the '08 bottom out. And I was doing everything from loans to investments. I was selling investments. I had like my 63, my life insurance license, my real estate license.
Oh, wow.
I was a collector of license and certificates. And I was really doing a lot of sales in the banking industry. And I enjoyed it for what it was, and I learned so much while I was there. And I think that we're always exactly where we need to be, because while I was there, I think it was one of my business clients who said to me one day, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. And again, another seed was planted. And I was like, what does that feel like, to love what you do so much that it doesn't feel like work? I want to know what that feels like. And so that's when I really kind of took an inventory of my life to figure out, well, what is it that I love? And what I realized was it was sitting in the break room with whatever it was that I made that day, my little quinoa salad or whatever it was that was like, that tasted good, that was healthy. I'd always make enough to share. And everyone around me would be like, what'd you bring today? What'd you bring today? Like, here, I brought, I bring enough to share, and they'd eat it. Like, wow, this is really good. This is good for me. I'm like, yeah. They'd be like, I can eat this every day. I'm like, you can? Yes, here's the recipe,
Right.
And over the years that I worked at the bank, I'll never forget, I have countless stories like this, but this one always stuck with me. This woman, Jo, that I worked with, she was probably in her late 50s and overweight, type 2 diabetic. And she was really inspired by me because we talk in break room all the time. And I was always sharing food with her and ideas and recipes. So she started taking these recipes home. She started cooking this way.
Oh, wow.
And over the course of like a period, I think it was only like 6 months, one day she comes into work and she's like, I'm off of insulin.
No.
My doctor said, whatever I'm doing to keep doing it. She reversed type 2 diabetes. And this is before I went back to study nutrition. It was just self-taught at this point. To me, it was very simple, like eat food with purpose on purpose, like food is medicine. And so, sharing this stuff with her and sharing recipes of food that tasted good, that was healthy, she was creating them at home. She started getting inspired and eating that way and started working out and exercising. And it was just like, wow, the power in that. And there was another guy I worked with who had reversed high blood pressure and high cholesterol, which he said ran in the family. I was like, more often than not, your diet runs in your family.
Right.
And, it was just like, wow, the power of just seeing that it just lit me up inside that we have so much power over our health.
Mhm.
And we've been kind of taught that we're powerless over it. It's just this thing that's going to happen to us as we age. It's just a part of it here. Swallow these
Sure.
pills and, we'll see you next year for your next diagnosis. And it's like, we have so much more power than we realize. And a lot of that starts with like the choices that we make about what is on the other end of our fork,
That's amazing. How inspirational. And then what about what inspired you to finally be like, I think I could do this as a business and to step outside? Because a lot of people, and we've spoken about this before, it's comfortable. If you work for a company, a bank, whatever position you're at, you get a check every 2 weeks. It's comfortable. It takes a bold action to take that step of betting on yourself and being like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, what was your kind of inspiration?
Yeah. It's funny. I always say one thing that I've noticed about most entrepreneurs that I know is we all have something in common and we're all a little bit crazy in the best way. But I think you have to have a little bit of that to kind of, again, go against that grain and step outside, because for me, like, it didn't make sense. I'm a single mom. I've got a nice income. It's guaranteed. I've got, insurance, medical insurance. I've got all these things. And I think some of those things, they're wonderful things to have, but they can also keep you trapped because that's security. And it's really scary to walk away from security and step out into the unknown, outside of the comfort zone, right? Which is where all the magic happens, but it's really hard for most people to do that. And it was really hard for me as well. And I think for me, it kind of started in stages. I kind of thought like, okay, I went and I studied nutrition and I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing nutrition on the side because I can't make money doing what I love. That doesn't make sense to me. I've been taught something so different, right? Growing up in the culture that we've grown up in. So it was like, okay, I'll do real estate on the side and that will be where I make money. And then I'll teach nutrition on the side. And so I was kind of doing that for a while, and real estate wasn't really going great at the time. And I was teaching, and that wasn't really enough. So then I started consulting. So I was working with local like restaurants and helping them put healthy options on the menu. And I found some places that were looking to create some like juice cleanse programs. So I was helping build that stuff. And I started getting exposed into like the restaurant space through consulting with nutrition. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to do this. I kind of started putting it out there, and I had to walk away from, at that point I was pretty much self-employed because I was, doing the nutrition stuff and I was doing the consulting. But in order for me to like step full time into this, it was wild. I mean, I put the idea out there. I started playing with the ideas, talking about it out loud to people. I'm going to open a place.
Yeah.
I'm going to open this place. And they're like, where are you going to do it? I'm like, I don't know, but I really like this little container in Carlsbad Village, and I really want to open it. I want to open a juice place there. And people are like, "You're crazy. The village is dead. It's all, like, no, you don't want to do it there." I'm like, "No, I want to do it there." I just like knew that was a spot, and I reached out to the guy who owned it at the time. He's like, "No, I'm turning it into a pizza concept. I'm not interested in selling." I'm like, "Okay." Again, just an idea in my head. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. Like, no clue. I was just like, "I'm going to do this thing." Again, a little bit crazy. And I think it's good. I think I'm happy that I didn't know what I now know, because I probably would have never taken that step, knowing all the mountain that I had to climb that I didn't even know existed, But anyways, that guy a couple months later reaches out to me again. I have no concept. I don't have a brand. I don't have a menu. I mean, I've been cooking this kind of food, making this stuff, but I don't have a menu. I don't have a brand. I don't have a website. I don't have anything. And this guy reaches out to me and he says, I'm gonna sell the container, but you got to pony up X amount of dollars, which was a lot of money at the time for me. And he's like, and you got to do it this week. Otherwise I'm selling to somebody else.
Wow.
And so I had to make this decision in that moment, go all in, walk away from these contracts, this works. I was had a full schedule there. You can't open a restaurant and have a schedule. So I had to walk away from a paycheck and go into full time, almost 24 hours a day to get this place open and off the ground without any guarantees whatsoever. And I had to put my life savings into it, which felt scary. It felt more than scary. Scary is not strong enough for it. Terrifying,
Sure, it's the unknown.
Yeah, and the responsibility also for me of being a parent at the time and being responsible to these children. I've got mouths to feed. I've got to keep a roof over their head. And I've never had, growing up, I left home at 16, a really bad situation. I grew up in a really violent, toxic, drug-infested home environment. I left at 16. My dad wasn't around, so I never had like family to fall back on. I didn't have like, okay, if I fail, it's okay. I can just move home with mom or dad. That was never an option for me. I didn't have that. I didn't have any family support system. So even more scary, even more terrifying to take a leap like that of faith and not know if it was going to work out. And so, yeah, I do think that I had to be a little bit crazy. I look back now and I'm like, man, I was crazy. Thank God I was, because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am today. But yeah, it took a leap of faith, and it took, knowing that I might fall on my face and lose everything. And it was a risk I was willing to take.
Brandon, what's going on? This is going to be our biggest deal. We can't be down.
I don't know, man. I've been trying to reach tech support for hours now. They're not responding. They said they're probably not going to get back to us for the next couple of days.
Tennessee Tech told you this was going to happen. Let's call them right now. They do the tech support, cybersecurity. They can help us.
Let's do it. All right, team. Great job. Because of Tennessee Tech, we were able to present this and close it. Good job, team. I love it. Well, it's that extreme belief in yourself. I mean, again, like you said, we've had this discussion where there's nobody to fall back on. So, you just bet on yourself, took a chance. It's inspirational.
Yeah.
That's great. So that was the first story. And then, so what was the first week like?
It was so interesting opening up that location, because on one hand, it was an instant success. We opened up in the middle of summer, right in the middle of Carlsbad Village. I remember like the day we did a pre-opening party before we opened, and I invited every human I knew, and every human they knew, to just try to get the word out. We had no marketing budget, had not enough money in the bank to be doing what I was doing. And I invited everyone I knew for this opening party. And I remember it was the first time I was putting my creations on display. I always imagine, I'm not an artist. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. But I imagine this is what an artist must feel like when they, put their first like piece of art out on display at a gallery, right? Like, what are people going to say? What are they going to think? I remember hiding inside of the shipping container. If you've ever been to my Carlsbad Village location, it's a shipping container. And I remember sending out this, my team, like an army of these young, team members with these platters of all the samples. And I remember sending them out and hiding inside until the first one came back in to reload her little platter. And I was like, what are they saying?
Yeah.
Do they like it? I was so afraid. It was so scary, right? Putting that out there. What if they don't like it? Yeah. What if they don't like what I created? What if they don't like my food? What if they don't get it? But sure enough, everybody loved it, right? And so, yeah, opening the doors was amazing. We were an instant hit, lines out the door, but we were bleeding cash.
Sure.
Because I knew nothing about business, and I was the creative type, And so I had a lot to learn, and the first year was incredibly hard and incredibly challenging. I remember calling my mom one day and telling her, I was like, I think I have that disease where you die from working too much. I don't forget what it's called, but people like in other countries that like they die from like working themselves to death. Right. And I felt that way because that first, few months, it was like working all night. I had a commissary kitchen because, again, you've seen a shipping container. We couldn't have a kitchen there. Yeah. So to open an offsite commissary kitchen, I had the first retail location. So I had a full team there. You're working there, training the team on making everything all night long. Then you're working at the store all day long, training the, team there. And it was absolute madness. It was the hardest I've probably ever worked in my life. And again, it's doing well, but we're not making money because I realized the overhead of having, 2 locations, the sales of 1, going into my first, after summer ended slow season. It was a really, really rough time. And I think if I didn't love what I did, I think I would have thrown the towel in. I think about this a lot, actually. I think that one of the things that separates when you're doing something that you're passionate about, because hard times will come, no matter what industry you're in. Hard times will come, there will be tough situations you have to navigate, lawsuits, recessions, COVID, like there will be really tough things that come in business. That's just the way that it goes. But when you love what you do, I think it makes it so hard to walk away. And there were times when I think any other sane person would have thrown the towel in. I mean, the first 6 months of business, I'd broken up with my business partner. I took over the business, doubled down, cashed out all my 401ks, every last penny I had to go in on a failing business that, in a season where I sell cold products, we're going into a rainy season. The forecast calls for nothing but rain. I had 3 lawsuits. It was like absolute mayhem, you know? And there was a night where I literally cried myself to sleep. I went to bed and I cried until there was nothing left inside of me. I don't know if you've ever had one of those like moments where you just ugly girl cry, you know. I had one of those moments, and what I always remember, it was such a defining moment. I've had clearly many of these in my life, but I remember this moment where I cried until there was nothing left inside of me. And at the bottom of all of that emotion and fear and everything, what I found was gratitude. And I was like, I might only have one more payroll left in the bank, you know, and it might all end after that. Forecast is calling for rain for the next 2 weeks. We're bleeding cash. I've got all these legal expenses I'm going through. I need another store to save me, but I don't have like the money for another store. I need to move the commissary kitchen. I need another retail location to make this work. And at the time I was being sued by a company called Juice Nation. They're not around anymore, but trademark infringement. It was Juice Nation with Pangea made up of fruits and vegetables. I'm Choice Juicery with the continents as they exist today. But for whatever reason, they trademark infringement. This kind of thing happens, you know?
Right.
Yes. Anyway, so fast forward back to this night where I'm crying my eyes out and not sure how I'm going to make it work. And at the bottom of all of the emotion, I find gratitude.
Wow.
Gratitude, because I was like, I had this idea in my mind and now it walks around in people's hands. I walk through, you know, at the time it was just Carlsbad, but I walk through Carlsbad, I see people with my bottles in their hands, my you know, juices in their hands, and they're so happy and they love the product. It's like that came out of my mind and into this reality. I got to see what that was like. I got to sign my checks. I got to like know what it was like to live my dream. And even if it was only for this time, like I am so incredibly grateful that I got to do this. And so it was so wild. There's literally a picture on our Instagram. If you go back to that first year in 2014, it's pouring rain. It's the morning after that moment. I'm wearing a hoodie because it's pouring rain. I'm holding a smoothie bowl in this pouring rain, smiling ear to ear. And nothing had changed. Nothing had changed, right? My situation hadn't changed, but I had changed.
Right.
Wow. And you've heard that saying, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And another one that I love is that you can't solve your problems at the same level of thinking that created them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Albert Einstein said that. And so oftentimes when we're stuck in a problem, I was stuck in a problem. I needed money. I needed a second store. I didn't see any way out. We were drowning, cash wise. I didn't know what to do. And I was in that mindset of, stress and fear and problems. And then when I shifted into gratitude, it was like the whole world changed. Not to get too esoteric or out there, but literally it was within that week, I got a phone call from a woman, Lisa, who owned a Pilates studio in Solana Beach. And she asked me if I would collaborate with her on a cleanse program for her clientele. And I said, you should probably work with a juice company that's in that center. They don't like me. They already tried to sue me for trademark infringement. She's like, they closed their doors. Wow. I was like, what? She's like, they closed their doors this week.
Okay, yeah.
And I said, no way. Well, I had the guy's information because he sued me.
Right.
I reached out to him. He was like, do you want my location? He felt so bad that he had tried to sue me. He said it was his, over-aggressive trademark attorney. He felt horrible. He had a fully built-out juice store. Again, I needed another juice store. Didn't have the money to build one out. Now, that's my second location.
Amazing.
One of my best locations. Again, like you can't make this stuff up, And so I truly believe our mindset plays such a huge role in our overall outcomes and success.
That's incredible.
I agree. We talk about that every week, honestly, on this podcast. And it's amazing because a lot of times when you hold on too tight, you're just holding on. And you're just kind of expecting the ball to drop.
Yeah.
But if you kind of let it go and you put in the work, good things can happen. And, again, it's overused, but everything happens for a reason.
Totally.
For example, you open in the middle of summer. If you would have opened 6 months earlier, it might have changed. It might have been different.
Totally.
You opened when you were supposed to open.
Exactly.
Everything you went through was so that you can be here. So it's amazing. It's very inspirational.
That's incredible. And as you were telling the story, I was thinking of asking, what was your next action step? But it sounds like the right action step came to you.
It literally did. It's wild. And that's why I always tell people, like, no matter what's happening to you, I know it feels like it's happening to you. It's happening for you. And I always give that lawsuit as an example. It felt pretty bad when they wanted to sue me frivolously for something that didn't make any sense to me. And it doesn't make any sense. Why? But if they hadn't sued me, I wouldn't have had that guy's contact. I wouldn't have known, it's like it all lined up exactly how it was supposed to. And so I truly believe that everything is a gift when we allow ourselves to see it that way. Looking at a tough situation that's happening and trying to find the beauty in it, trying to find the silver lining, trying to figure out what am I trying to learn from this experience? What am I gaining here? And it's not always clearly like visible out the gate. You don't always know in that moment. I didn't know. But when I let go of that control and that fear and just surrendered to the experience, it unfolded in such a beautiful way, in a way that I could have never even envisioned for myself.
Right.
I never thought it was even, I couldn't have even dreamed that somebody would hand me a built-out juice shop. I
When
wouldn't
you
have, I
needed it,
wouldn't have
at the
dreamed
time
that
that
for
you needed
myself
it.
because it's unheard of, right? But when I let go of control, the universe provided exactly what I needed in a way that I didn't even think was possible for myself. And so I do believe that when we let go of that control, and it doesn't mean that we don't take actions, and it doesn't mean that we don't, make decisions and move forward. You can't just sit there on your couch all day and expect nice things to show up for you, right? But I mean, like energetically, when we let go of that fear and that resistance and that control of the way that we think it's supposed to be going for us, and we kind of see what happens and what shows up, I think that really cool things can happen.
Hey, can you believe we have 336 members now of the group?
I know. Crazy
growing
how
so much.
fast that was actually in a
Let's
year.
celebrate.
Okay, you're always wanting, look at that. Look how quick he is to celebrate.
Well, we have to celebrate.
What are you looking for though?
So that corkscrew.
Tune. Los Cuernos. No corkscrew needed. What do you want? You want a rosé? Red. Another red. But you want Chardonnay, I'm sure.
Chardonnay, just
Pop that open.
Totally. Like two of these huge problems just kind of had the answer for you. So did that lawsuit, did it get dropped?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's incredible. I'm curious. So the commissary kitchen, is that like a commercial kitchen that multiple people use?
No. Initially, when we started, yes, we were renting kitchen space. And then we moved out of that space. We moved into the Solana Beach store, and we had our own kitchen in the back of that,
Thank goodness.
which was amazing. We were able to open a third store out of that situation. And then we were maxed out at that kitchen. We had a storage facility offsite. It was chaos trying to manage 3 stores out of this tiny little kitchen with everything we were doing.
Yeah.
Because I've always had very lofty visions of like what we were going to do. Most juice places are like, it doesn't make sense to make food, right? Because it's a huge expense. But I want it to be easier for people to make healthy choices. If they're coming in for a smoothie and there's like some soups and salads and easy choices for them to take for lunch or
And it's
later
quick,
for dinner,
quick and easy,
right? Exactly.
so,
Then it's
yeah.
convenient, it's easy, that people are going to make better choices.
Right.
And so that was my goal. So that was my vision, and I was not willing to like let that go. Hence, the desire to have that commercial kitchen. And then again, my integrity has always been above all else. Integrity over profits, which has made it very challenging to be in the restaurant space. It's not easy to do, and that's why nobody really does it. Everybody compromises in my space. And I was told, I'll share one quick story on that. When I was I think I had 2 locations at the time, and I hired a kitchen manager. He'd come from another juice place locally that was well known. And he came in and he was kind of running my kitchen for me. And he came to me one day and he said, yeah, I did the math. He was like, if we add 1 quart of water to just one of our ingredients, like kale, I did the math, we'll save $10,000 a year. That's just one ingredient. And this is just with 2 stores. And I told him, no way. That's like cheating the customer. Absolutely not. And he was like, he told me I was stupid. He said, every other juice company is doing it. I've been working in all the kitchens locally for all the juice shops. This is what they're all doing. You dilute the juice. You don't have to put it on the label. And he was like, we'll make way more money. And I refused. I was like, if that's what it takes to be successful, I'd rather not be, because I don't want to compromise my integrity to make money.
Right.
I already worked for money early in life, and now I'm working for passion and purpose. And it's just a different animal when you do that. And so for me, the integrity has always been my true north. It's always been my guiding light, and it's kept me on track. And I think that that's why people are attracted to us, because they understand and appreciate the quality, even if they don't fully know. A lot of people, even my own friends, sometimes I'll see them drinking juice from other places. I'm like, oh, that's been HPP. They're like, what is that? I'm like, it's been pasteurized. It sits on the shelf for 45 days. It's, it's devoid of a lot of nutrition. Like, you really shouldn't, they don't know the difference, but people do. When they taste our juice, they prefer our juice because they taste the quality and the purity. People tell me all the time, it tastes like a juice concentrate. I'm like, no, it's just real juice. You just haven't had real juice because you drink diluted pasteurized juice, So.
Wow. It's like you've gotten your MBA in business. I mean, just through life experience. And again, you bet on yourself and you're sticking to your ethics, which is
Totally
rare.
It is. It makes me sad that it is. I remember being invited into a mastermind. It was, my first time ever being invited into a mastermind. I was like, sure, I'll go. I don't know what this is. We sat in this circle and all these women were going around talking about like what their goals were for the year. It came around to me and I was just like, well, my life's word is impact and I want to leave the world a better place. And I found it. And it got really quiet and they all looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
And then they're like, one of the girls next to me is like, and make a shit ton of money. And I'm like, no, again, there's nothing wrong with making money.
Sure.
We have to make money, right? In order to keep the lights on and, pay our people and all the things. But that's not my goal. If that was my goal, I'd be doing things very differently, right? I could make a lot more money in this industry by doing the things that everyone else is doing. But again, I'm not chasing. To me, I define success very differently than most people. To me, it's not just some number in a bank account. I mean, sure, that's great, but it's not enough on its own as a definition of success. To me, it's, do you love what you do? Are you lit up inside? I feel so lucky every day that I'm passionate about what I do. I feel like it's such a rare thing in this day and age. People are chasing money and paychecks and not purpose and passion. And I think that I feel like I'm the lucky one, that I get to pursue that. I get to do this every day. I'm like, pinch me. This is my life. This is what I get to go do for work.
Well, it's your legacy. You leave it. People will always remember Choice and the impact you made on people. So I love that passes on. Money doesn't. We have that discussion all the time. And again, I applaud you for that. And also being a female as an entrepreneur, that's difficult because, again, we've had discussions before. We've had other guests where you get put in a box and you're supposed to act a certain way. Again, it's got to be about the numbers. It's got to be, but you're sticking to what makes you, what's your passion.
Totally.
Yeah, your purpose.
Yeah, and being a female, it has been hard. People ask me about this often. Have I had any challenges around being a female in business? And two that stick out to me the most are somebody in my own family, outside family, but like an uncle on my brother's side. We had different dads, but an uncle on his side who was one of the most successful people I knew growing up. When I was going through that really rough time where breaking up with the business partner, I needed to buy him out. I was like facing the lawsuits and I was like trying to like go double down. I had reached out to him and asked him to come have a meeting with me so I could show him what I was doing and see if he would invest in what I was doing. And he sat down with me and my business partner at the time, who we were like parting ways. And we talked, and then I had to go deal with a customer situation. When I came back, they had a few moments to talk. And after, my business partner left, this guy who I looked up to as an uncle in my life, he said to me, if he stays involved, then I'll give you money. And ironically, like we were bleeding cash when he was involved at the time, not to discredit him, but he was very busy running his own concept. And this was kind of on the back burner for him, but we were bleeding cash and all the business stuff, all the costing and all that stuff had been done wrong. Once we parted ways, I ended up obviously turning things around and becoming successful. And it was like so hard that someone that, in my own circle wouldn't invest in that, And so situations like that, another time, a company that also had initially tried to sue me for trademark infringement, a frivolous suit as well, but later they became pretty big and they were merging with another really big juice company and they approached me and they wanted to merge with Choice. They said that they lost the soul of their company and they wanted to merge with me. And they, I'd have like this big brand. I'd be the face of this huge brand that ran all the way up, multi-state, it would be a great platform for me. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, we have two things we have to talk about. One is like, what would my role be? And they said, oh, well, you'll be taking interviews. And don't get me wrong, I love that stuff. But I was like, well, I love like negotiating leases. I love doing the build outs. I manage the construction. Like, oh, we have, Harvard MBAs, for that.
Right.
At the time, mind you, they were bleeding cash. They'd never been successful. They're not around today anymore. But they were making money because they kept raising more money and diluting their investors. And they had never made a penny. And here I was, they're like, you're going to sit in the corner and look pretty, essentially. That would be my job title. And then the integrity piece. I was like, are you willing to stop pasteurizing your juice? Are you willing to go certified organic? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay, well, then that makes our decision, because that's my true north. And so I walked away. And at the time they were like, you'll be the largest investor next to Jenny Craig. You're going to, it's going to be such a good deal for you. And I walked away thinking, man, did I just make a huge mistake? Was this an opportunity that I should have said yes to? But I stuck to my integrity. And then, fast forward, everyone who was involved with that concept ended up getting completely diluted and getting ruined in that deal.
Right.
And so choice would have rolled up into that and I would have lost it, you know. But again, that true north, sticking to my integrity has always led me to the right place.
Well, I love it. Well, it's also, you know, we've discussed this before as well, as, I mean, you grew up with kind of a hard situation during your childhood, you know, in your 20s and so on. All that really gave you kind of that fortitude to be able to withstand tough times. And I feel like if you didn't have that, you might have made a different choice, gotten the easy way out, you know. But I mean, again, I applaud you for what you've gone through. Yeah.
They say good captains are made in rough waters.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, kind of going back to the name, because obviously there's been a couple lawsuits now. How did you come up with the name? How good was that episode?
So good. Let's celebrate.
Where do you want to go?
JoJo's Creamery.
Ooh, my favorite. Look at all the flavors.
They even have vegan.
Ooh, awesome.
Hi, welcome in, you guys.
Hi, thank you. How are you?
Good. Is there anything I can get started for you?
My go-to is peanut butter cup and coconut almonds.
I'm going to do coconut mounds in a cup, please.
All right, that'll be $15.85.
All right. Wait, my wallet.
June, you can use repegs.
Oh, that's right.
And you guys get 2 free cookies with those.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Repegs is so easy to use. Thanks a lot.
You know, for me, it was after I was teaching for Scripps at the time. I was teaching like nutrition. It was like plant-based cooking and nutrition classes for the employees of Scripps. And I loved it. It was so much fun. Didn't pay very well, but I really enjoyed it. I was learning that doctors aren't the bad guys, right?
Right.
I was learning that it's just like they were victims of the system. And so they were coming to my classes and they were learning all this stuff. And they were coming back every week and they were loving it. And at the end of the day, they weren't making changes. And again, my life goal was impact. And I was like, I don't understand what's going wrong. Like, I'm giving them the tools and, you know, giving them the recipes, I'm giving them the information, and they're telling me it was just too hard for them. It's like, why is it hard? You know? And they're like, well, we work too many hours. We can't cook like this at home. It's like, okay, well, I mean, there's healthy options on every menu. And they're like, well, it's really hard to make a good choice. You know, when you walk in the door, like I said earlier, and you're starving, you just worked a double, you walk in the door and you're hit in the face with a burger and fries, you might have had the good intentions of getting that salad or that healthy option, but, you know, fries smell really good. And so I realized in that moment, it wasn't enough to make healthy food taste good. And it wasn't enough to make it convenient. I had to serve it in an environment where people could not make a bad choice, hence the name.
I love
There you go. And it's so simple, but it even goes back to what we were talking about before your grandmother passed away. It's like people have the choice to eat this certain way, or they have a choice to accept going to their doctor for another diagnosis. It's like we actually have choices in our health, and it kind of goes full circle of like, you have control over your health, you have choices over your health. You're the driving factor of your life.
And it's a lifestyle. It's a choice.
Absolutely.
What type of lifestyle do you want? Decisions. Do I give up on my business, or do I choose to?
Yeah. Everything in life. I mean, everything in life is a choice, you know, everything we do every moment. And not to get into the weeds at all about like because I think that there's a lot of different ways to get to the goal of being healthy, right? There's so many different ways to be healthy. But it's like, to me, it's very simple. Ask yourself everything you're doing every moment of every day. You know, is this going to get me closer to the goal or further away? You know, getting up and going for a walk in the morning, going for a run, getting some exercise, is that going to get me closer to that goal or closer, right? Every time I sit down for a meal, is this going to get me closer to that goal, or is it going to get me further away? Every time I go out for a drink with friends, I don't drink anymore, but you know, when I did, it's like, are you overindulgent? So those things, it's like, it's very simple, you know, just asking yourself every choice you make, is this getting me closer to where I want to go or further away? And it's up to you what you do with that, you know, and there is no right or wrong way, I think, to live your life. We're all living our lives for the best of, you know, the desired outcome that we have. But, you know, you can certainly get there when you make good choices, and they compound. Atomic Habits. Have you read that one?
Yes.
I just finished that for book club.
So good.
The compounding effect of just making good choices. It doesn't have to be this end game, right? It's like, it's not about the end game. It's like every little choice that we make, our choices stack. They stack and stack and stack and get us to where we want to be. I was talking to someone about this the other day, because I look back, my kids brought home some videos of when they were really young, and I was in my 20s when I had my older two. And so I was like seeing a video of me like carrying my son and like my little toddler running around. And I was looking at me in my 20s. And I was like, God, I look better today than I did in my 20s. I didn't work out in my 20s. I wasn't into exercise or physical fitness, any of that stuff. I was just kind of starting my, getting real clean with my diet and stuff. And now I'm in my 40s. And I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough money to go back to that 22-year-old body, which is crazy. And most people would, at my age, would be like, give me anything to go back to being 22. But it's the little choices I started making at that stage of life that led me to where I am today. I'm more fit today. I'm healthier today. I'm happier mentally, all of the things because of the choices that I made little by little every day that led me to where I am today.
That's so true. And even just giving up soda when you were 11.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like to an 11-year-old, that's the biggest deal in the
Right?
world.
Huge, yeah.
Or for people to like give up alcohol when they're
Yes.
21. They're like,
Yes.
this is the biggest deal in the world. It's like that little change is going to set you up to be happier and healthier when you're in your 40s or just
Absolutely.
the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yes.
Well, and that's why, I love that word choice because we've had 83 different companies started from the group just because they made the choice.
Wow.
And what you said earlier is you just spoke it. You told people in the break room, you're saying, oh, this is kind of what you want to do. People don't realize the power of that because a lot of times we hold it within. We want to do something else, but we're like, we kind of second guess ourselves and we never speak it. And the fact that you actually spoke it, you made the choice, you put it out there and the energy followed. And that's why we try to inspire people and tell people, just say it. What do you really want to do? Let's figure out how we can make it happen. What's your passion? What's your purpose? Let's put it together. You have to make money, so let's balance it out. But speak it. What do you want? And once you speak it, you put it out in the universe. You have to do the work, but it does.
Yes. There's something really powerful that I don't fully understand or appreciate, and I don't know if I will in this lifetime while I'm still here, but about how things work,
Right.
the magic that happens when you speak things. I still this day remember the first time I told somebody, I'm going to open up a juice place. I didn't know what the heck I was talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't know how that guy was going to do it. A week later, out of nowhere, an old friend called me and was like, hey, there's this juice place for sale downtown. It made me think of you.
Jeez.
What? I didn't end up buying that one, but how random that a week after I said that out loud, somebody I hadn't spoken to in over a year thought of me. It's like when you put things out there into the universe, something crazy happens, and it's almost like the universe organizes. To meet your current level of alignment, like what you're saying and what you're speaking into existence. So I think
it's also, and honestly too, if you look back, the universe always gives you signs. You kind of ignore it until you speak it and you're like, oh, I've seen the signs and here it comes and it just happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need to get you to speak all over the country.
I love that. That's on the goal board for sure.
It's happening.
So as far as the goal board, what's the plan for Choice? What's the plan for you for the next year, for the next 5 years? What are you looking to try to do?
I want to continue to expand Choice. I definitely want to see myself grow outside of just San Diego. I'd like to, go all over the nation. One of the ways that I'm working on that now is we're selling products online. And so there's certain things I can't sell online, right? Like I won't ever sell my juice online because I'd have to pasteurize it to do that, and I refuse. And there's not a lot of money in juice. And so trying to create ways for my brand to be more sustainable without compromising integrity. Because everyone tries to tell me, well, you're going to have to do this in order to grow. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I have to get creative in ways that I can grow the brand and the company and create more opportunity for my teams without compromising integrity.
Right.
So I've continued to create more products that I can sell online and do wholesale distribution with. So we just launched our Rehydrate Plus, our hydration powder.
Oh, right.
We're shipping that nationally. We ship our bread nationally. I know we were having a talk about our bread. We ship our gluten-free bread nationally, our protein powder. We have a greens powder, which is like your daily greens in one scoop. It's like the best one on the market, in my opinion. All of them are. I am a little biased, but I mean, don't just take it from me. You can see the reviews online.
Right.
But yeah, we have some amazing products that we ship online all over the nation. And that's a goal for me. We just got into our first local health food store with some of our products. So we're, starting to branch into wholesale distribution. So that's a goal, but I still want to continue to open up more retail locations as well. And then for me personally, like we said a minute ago, I'd love to see myself, getting out there. My life word is impact. So I want to make a large impact. And I think for me, I get really excited about showing people that where you came from doesn't have to define where you're going.
Yes.
I think you can, relate to that a bit with your background. Just coming from where I came from, growing up on welfare and food stamps and, not an educated, family and knowing nothing about business or any of that stuff, and being able to like come from an environment where I saw extreme abuse. I remember one time sitting at a restaurant with my kids, and this man walked up to me, and I thought, oh no, is this guy going to hit on me in front of my kids right now? He walked up to me and he's like, Nastasha? Okay, this is creepy. Yes. And he's like, I'm Jeff. You probably don't remember me. I dated your aunt when you were a little girl. I've been sitting here just admiring you with your children. He's like, how did you turn out okay? I figured you'd be in a gutter, you know?
Wow.
And most people that knew me in my childhood and knew the crazy stuff that we went through and we were exposed to would assume that I would be in a gutter. I mean, the things that I saw and, you know, experienced as a kid, they would not expect anything to have come out of my life. And so to be able to come from that environment and get to where I am today, I feel like that had to have been for something.
Right.
And so I like to think that that's so that I can inspire other kids that came from rough backgrounds, that, you know, just because you came from that does not mean, that doesn't have to define you. You can do anything with your life.
Yeah. And you really are. I mean, again, ever since we've met, I've heard stories about you and really getting to know your background. It's inspirational to me. And I think our audience, I think this is going to be an amazing episode. I think, honestly, as far as choice goes, the future goes, I think you're the brand as well. I mean, the fact that you have come from where you've come from and where you are today and what you're looking to do, you can inspire so many people with what you've gone through. Because again, if you grow up in that environment, you're kind of like, that's all you know. You only know what you know.
Yeah.
And you feel like this is my life. This is my life because my parents lived that way. My grandparents lived this way. But you're proof that you can get out of any situation.
Totally.
And it takes kind of a mindset. It takes a choice.
Yes.
You know, if you do speaking engagements, I feel like you're going to inspire millions.
Thank you. Yeah, I think having the ability to think outside of your current environment. I think often, like you said a minute ago, you think you are the environment that you're in. You believe that. So a lot of people born into poverty, they believe that that's who they are. And so being able to shift out of that and think greater than that current experience to create something greater for yourself. I hope to inspire more people with that for sure.
I think you have. Yeah, every time I speak to you, I get inspired. And you're highly competitive in pickleball.
I am very competitive.
Yeah, so it's fun. You know how to balance out work with play, and you also dance as well.
Yes, sir. Dance, lots of pickleball.
Yeah.
Which, you know, just going back to what you created, you know, the group ended up joining one of the subgroups, which is the pickleball group, and it's created such an amazing community and like friends and. So yeah, I love it. And I realized later in life, probably a little bit later than I would have liked, that community is such an important aspect that's now been added to my definition of success. A little later in life, because I think I white knuckled a lot of things in life, thinking I had to do it all on my own, because that was my story early on. And I recognize now the importance of having community. So I love what you've created as well. And somehow, as an off branch of that, there's all these other groups that have been created. And so it's beautiful to watch that community grow. So
we'll definitely have to collaborate.
Yes.
I think, again, you're going to be inspirational to a lot of people, but just that community, just to have you around has been great. And, you know, the pickleball group, if you want to join it, we have a pickleball group. Fridays, 9 o'clock at Gudania, we have our Feel Good Fridays. And if people want to get a hold of you or go to your choice, what locations do you have? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, we have 6 locations here in San Diego. We're in Carlsbad, Encinitas, Solana Beach, Little Italy, Del Sur, and then, the 2 in Carlsbad. So if you want to get a hold of me personally, you can find me at Nastasha McKeon on Instagram. And Choice Juicery is also on Instagram and choicejuicery.com. You can find us there as well, where we're shipping all kinds of products all over the nation.
And then also get her recipe book. I have one in my kitchen as well. So
Plant Food is Medicine, yeah.
Right.
And all the merch. I love all the clothing that you
thank
print.
you.
It's motivating.
Yeah,
It's like
it is motivating.
for other people to see, even when they get a smoothie,
Yes.
it says how, you know, you are healthy, you are strong. It's like
Affirmation.
Yeah.
Yes, one of the biggest ones that we write on everything is choose happiness. It's like a big part of our branding, because I do believe, again, happiness is a choice. You know, we can't control the things that happen to us, but we can control how we respond to them. And so being able to thrive and choose happiness in any situation, I think, is so important.
Yeah, I go there at least 3 times a week, and
Yeah.
it's always inspirational. And that last time, I think I posted on Instagram, it said like, you're a little baddie. I was like, okay,
I
well,
saw that.
yeah,
Yes.
so
I love that.
I was like,
People show that. They're like, oh, look at
yeah.
that.
I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
so we write love notes on every single cup and bowl. We do it for multiple reasons. One is we want to have a positive impact on everybody's day, right? So when you get a little something and it has a little personalized
Yes.
love note, it feels good, right?
Yeah.
And next to that, I don't know if you've heard the study of water by Dr. Emoto.
Yes.
And
Oh,
how
yeah.
it
Yes.
changes the molecular structure of the
Mhm.
water, like what they write on the cup. And because obviously there's a lot of like water inside of, right, any kind of liquid. And so we write the love notes on there because we're also hoping to change the structure of that into something beautiful.
It's that gratitude.
I feel
again.
good every time I go. I look forward to that. I feel good. I'm actually inspired to put Choice right here.
I
on
love
my-
it.
on my
Do it.
tattoo,
Do
Choice
it.
here, so be a permanent sponsor.
That spot.
Yes.
But again, thank you again. Look forward to our continued friendship,
Yeah.
seeing what you're going to do with Choice. And we look forward to it. If you're interested in sponsoring the Heart of the Matter podcast, we're on Spotify and we're YouTube. Reach out to us. And we look forward to having our next guest. But thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nastasha.
Thank you.
Super
guys.
motivated.
This is so much fun.
Let's go to Choice.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah.
Let's do it.